So today we're going to be talking thriller, spiller, and filler. So I'm going to be showing you how to plant a container garden for part shade. We're going to be planting some Caladiums and some Begonias and creeping Jenny. It's going to be a step-by-step on exactly how to do it to get the best results. And if you've never been here before, my name is Marlene. Welcome to Marlene's How-Tos. So for a location to be considered part sun or part shade, it needs to have 4 to 6 hours of direct sunlight per day. And Caladiums are sun tolerant, so you can put them in a sunny area, but they really are ideal in part shade areas. They're beautiful for container gardens, and you can also put them in your flower beds, and those are just so absolutely gorgeous. And so for our container garden, they are going to be our thriller plants today. The thriller plant is one that's usually the tallest in the container. It's usually very bright and eye-catching, very showy, kind of like, the star of the show in a sense. Then next we have our fillers. In this case, I'm using Begonias, and it's a type of a plant that has a mounding habit where it tends to spread, but it doesn't grow as high as your thriller plant would, so it fills in the spaces. And over here we have our creeping Jenny, and it's the spiller. The spiller is one that spills over the side of the container, and it adds a lot of dimension to it. Instead of the standard look, it gives it that nice, trailing three-dimensional look off to the sides. You can use like ivy as another example for cool areas, as well as sweet potato vine. So over here we're going to be going over some of the items. We have our garden soil right there looking nice and rich. And in this instance, I'm going to be adding this compost and manure mixture, which you don't have to because we have other ways of getting additional food into the plant, which I'll talk about a little bit. And over here, you can use potting mix as another option as well. It just depends on what you prefer. We also have our mulch that we need. In this case, I'm using pine bark mulch, the nuggets. I like using those. I like the look that it has. We'll also need to have a trowel, and this is a nice sturdy one. Of course, there are other ones you can get as well. And over here, we'll need our watering can and, of course, our container. Now, this one right here has a nice pattern on the side, but it doesn't have any holes in it. And that is essential. You do need to have holes in the bottom of your container, because if the water isn't flowing out, then what's going to happen is you're going to have root rot and your plant is going to get stagnant down there and it's going to die. So in this instance, my husband is going ahead and he is using his drill with that special drill bit that's on there. And I'll link it at the end as to where you can get those two. It makes a nice hole in the bottom. It's very neat. And it's really, good to have something like this to use in that way if you're going to be getting one that doesn't have the holes in there already. And the reason is because sometimes if you try to use other things to make the hole, it can be a little slippery sometimes. And not only that, it could form cracks instead of having a nice smooth circle going around. So this is really ideal. And so it's just going to go in and make a few of them. In this case, we decided to do just one basically for each corner. You can make them a little bit larger if you like as well. And if you're liking this video so far, be sure to give me a thumbs up. It helps the video to go out to additional people. It gives a good sign to YouTube. So it's going to go in and make the final one. And then after we have done that, what I do typically is I use a coffee filter and I use it to cover the holes, especially if they're very large, the ones that come in there. You can even use maybe mesh, to put over there, and this prevents the soil from seeping out or, coming out from the holes over time. And of course, it allows the water to pass through. So, it works very, very well. This is definitely a tried and true practice that I have. And then we're going to go ahead and start to add in our garden soil, which is what I'm doing here. And I like to just have my little smaller container to just go and just, get it. It makes it more convenient because some of these can be a little bit heavy for lifting. And so I fill it in about half of the way. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in my compost and manure mixture. Sometimes it may just be a compost mixture only. So once we have it about halfway, we just go ahead and work it in. And for me, roughly, I do about 1 part of this mix to about 4 to 5 parts of the garden soil. And after I've mixed it in halfway, I go in and I get some more and add it on to it, just so you can work it in as evenly as possible. And of course, it's not a perfect science. You just want to have a reasonable amount of mixing taking place in there. And then once you've done that, you just keep adding in until you get to the level that you want. And some people, they make their own compost. I buy mine. You have compost teas and things like that you can use, to help to fertilize your plants. So here is our caladium. I'm going to go in and get it open. And of course you can buy, some of the younger shoots at the garden center, or you can get the dried roots like we have here. So that's what we used. And what we do is, we just go in and cut them out. And they do recommend that since they are a bit dry, what you can do is you can soak them in warm water, overnight. And that way it kind of helps to give it a head start. So it's even quicker for it to, come up and, give you a nice quick start. So over here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to place it towards the back. Some people put theirs in the center, but I prefer mine towards the back of my container. And that way, it's going to come up and look nice. And as far as which side is the root, it's a little difficult to tell because you want to have it pointing upwards. But typically where the roots are the most is where you'll, figure that that's the bottom, and you just have it go in, and then your plant's going to go up very quickly. If you didn't get it right, it's okay. It will correct itself, over time. So don't worry too much about that part. And as far as how deep to plant them, you typically want to have them about 2 inches down inside the soil. And then you just put it in there, you cover over and give it a gentle pat to make sure that, everything is secure down there. And this video, guys, is a part of an open collaboration hosted by my channel, Marlene's How To's, and I'm joined by 8 lovely ladies. We have Penny, Deborah, Katrina, Classieandra, Mary, Andrea, we have Prameela, and we have Roselin from JMom Creations. And I'll be linking their channels in the description box below, and they're going to have some wonderful porch ideas for you. So next we're going to go in and we are going to add in our begonia, our first mounding one. And you can see it has beautiful flowers on there, very nice pink. And this actually comes in white as well as red. So you can mix and match them if you like, or you can just use one of the same, the same color for the entire container. It just depends on what your preference is. So I decided to go with pink this time. I was just feeling that kind of a pink mood this year, so that's what I'm going for. And begonias, they can come back to. I've done a previous video. I will link it at the end for you so that you can, see how to care for them and to get the best out of them. And they're just wonderful plants. They're very easy to grow. They don't take too much fuss, from you. Very easy to take care of. We're going to go ahead and add in our second one. And this was actually $1.98 because these were 4-inch containers. They're a little bit larger than I normally get. But because I wanted to give you a little bit more pop in this video, I got the, the 4-inch ones. But you can get the little six-pack ones that are a lot smaller. And of course, you're going to have less color to start, but they all fill out over time. And they will definitely reward you, once you give them a good head start. And you want to make sure that you're pressing in the soil around it. Make sure that you level them off just about the level of the soil in the container. And then you just pull a little bit of the soil back over them. And that way you'll, cover the top. That way that you won't have any extra evaporation over time. It'll just be a nice, gentle process. And we're going to add our third one in now towards the front. And I typically get my filler plants, as odd numbers. You don't have to, but typically they recommend that you, do it that way. And eventually they're going to spread and they're going to fill out your container. And these are going to grow a little bit higher as well too. So, and these, they actually last from spring right through to fall. Only when the first frost comes, that they'll get damaged. But up until that time, you are going to be pretty much good to go. And I'm going to be doing follow-ups too on these to show you, over time how they are doing. So now next we have our creeping Jenny, and this is a spiller like I said before. And so we're going to put it towards the front of the container. And sometimes you can just use one if you like. These were for $2.98, so a little bit more than I typically would pay. But again, I wanted them to be a little bit larger in size. So we're going to put it towards the corner right here. And the same rule applies. You just want to make sure that it goes deep enough so that it levels out with the top of the soil in your container. So that way you can cover it over a little bit and you don't have that exposure, where it's going to dry out on you. And you want to try to make sure that you have it hanging over as much as you can to start. And eventually they will correct themselves because you'll see that they're growing in kind of like slightly different directions. But eventually, because of phototropism, where they're growing towards the light, they're going to correct themselves and they'll all flow forward. So you'll see that happen over time when you plant your spiller plants. And just press it in to make sure that it it has nice and compact and doesn't have any like ear pockets in there. So that way it will just retain the way it is and not sink in or anything like that. So just go ahead and pack it in there. And I'd love to see your comments, what you think about, the 3 type plants where you have, and it's really a growing habit that they each have, the one that's more upright, the one that's more mounding, and the one that's built over to the side. If you've ever used this arrangement for any of your plants before, if you're a beginner, you're going to be so rewarded when you see how they come together. It's going to be really, really nice. So I'm just going ahead and adding in our second one here. And I did use 3 begonias in here, but if you like, you can even have more than one type of mounding plant. That's fine. In patience, you pretty much would need to put these by themselves, and not mix them with anything else, but they're a good option as well too. And so if you like gardening as much as I do and you love flowers, because I do arrange them sometimes, be sure to hit the subscribe button and tap on the notification bell so that way you never miss an upload. Make sure it says all when you tap the bell so that way you know you'll get them all. So we're going to go ahead and water from our watering can now. And if you're using a hose, make sure it's on a gentle spray, because they're kind of delicate right now. And then you just want to go in and give them a nice soak and give them a nice little shower. And what I try to do is I try to time mine out sometimes if it's possible. Like if I know it's going to rain in a day or 2, I try to plant them. And then I'll, remove them out into the rain, because I'm telling you guys, there's nothing like when the rain falls from above, and it waters your plant. It's, you could water them and they're really nice and everything, but that is always the best option. And make sure you see the water running out under the bottom, that way you know it's ready. And then next we're going to go ahead and add our mulch. And I have my pine bark mulch here, and I just like that organic look that it has. Some people, they'll maybe use they'll use cypress mulch, which is nice too. Black mulch, I've seen a lot of that in recent times. Some people even use they'll use like the plastic ones. I'm not a huge fan because I prefer the things that are more organic, but whatever works for you and looks best. Sometimes I even use like river pebbles for mulch, depending on what I'm doing, like I do for my iris plants. And if you missed that video, you can always check out my my playlist for iris, and you'll see it in there. You just go ahead and tuck it in that it covers in all of the little spots that might be there. And then once you're done, you'll make sure that you water your mulch on top there as well, that they soak out, because if you don't, what happens is that they're going to pull moisture away from the soil, and you might see your plants wilting, especially if you forget to water them. And typically I say, like, for the first week, just water them every day. It's not going to harm them to water them every day, like for the first week. And then after that, you can water them, basically when the soil is drying out a little bit, because you don't want them to, get too much water once it passes that stage. So just checking on them. If the soil feels dry, then it means that it's time, to give them some water. And after 2 weeks have passed, if you never use like compost or mulch, you'll want to try some other type of a plant food like these right here. And what you'll do is you take 2 tablespoons of the mix, and you're going to add it into your watering can that typically holds, most of them are like 2-gallon containers, and then you'll go ahead and pour it on over there. And you do that like once every 2 weeks. So let's take a look now at the front porch. This is everything put together here. I have lots of different types of plants here that like part sun, part shade, so they're good companions for each other. So let's take a closer look on it. So this is what we just planted here, guys. And of course, our thriller hasn't come up yet, but I'm going to follow up with you, like I said, and you'll get to see how gorgeous everything looks as time progresses. So make sure you're subscribed if you haven't, so that way you'll get to see that as well. Over here is my croton. This is tropical, and this also likes part sun, part shade. Sometimes I have it inside. Well, usually I have it inside over the winter months. And up here, of course, you want to put a nice, beautiful wreath on your door. If you like that kind of a thing, I made that one. And over here, we have our home sign. You can have a welcome sign, whatever you like. And this is our dianthus over here. These also love part sun, part shade. And they're going to come up and look just like this. This is how they looked last season. And in just a matter of weeks, it's going to fill out and look just like this again. Aren't they absolutely gorgeous, guys? So we'll wait patiently on them. And down here we have some pansies. Pansies actually like sun, but they're cold-loving plants. And so because the season is warming up, they're perfect to be on the porch getting part sun at this point. And I have my fern there. Ferns also love to have part sun, part shade. So I hope that this gave you some great ideas. I hope you'll be, starting up your spring porch designs real soon. And I hope you'll also check out the ladies. Their channels are linked below, like I said, and they're great creators, so be sure to check them out. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.